but I mean, like. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, wherever you're from. This is the e-commerce Expand the Secrets podcast. I sort of say that loosely at the end because we seem to film them and go live with these now. But I'm really, really excited about today's guest. So my name's Andy Hooper. I'm a global e-commerce expert, and we successfully expand e-commerce sellers into Europe. But today, it's not really about us at all, and it's all about Carina. Carina, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for having me on the show today. It's nice to meet everyone.
Indeed. Thank you very much for joining us. So Carina is typically, actually, a lot of our guests are States-based because obviously we work a lot with sellers based in the States. This is a bit of an unusual one. People are going to be listening thinking, hold on, there's no American accent there, which is unusual for us. So Carina, give us a little bit about where you're based, a quick sort of intro about you, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, sure. So I'm actually based in the UK, in Southend, in Essex. I haven't always been here. I actually have only just sort of returned after living overseas for 8 years in Costa Rica, which is actually when I first started working with sellers and vendors and helping them when it comes to Amazon. So a bit of background about me. I basically spent a number of years after finishing university working for Amazon. So I spent over 7 years working for Amazon within the vendor management team, and then had a bit of a break, which was hence why I turned up in Costa Rica, going traveling, and didn't quite make it back.
Wicked. I love that. I'm going to dig deep into that a little bit because I love the traveling piece for me. I think that anyone that's never done any traveling has to do some traveling. They have to go and see different parts of the world, whatever works for them. So I'm going to really enjoy talking about that. So for people that are new to the show or haven't listened before, this really follows a few different steps. What we do is we talk to industry experts, people that are in e-commerce every day. Learn a little bit about their background, how they got into e-commerce, what they're currently doing in e-commerce, and where they see e-commerce going in the future. So there's a few little bits we pulled together, and I'm really, really excited to dig in. So, Carina, you said that you moved back to Southend. Did you grow up in Southend?
No, I actually grew up in Northampton. So,
so landlocked compared to Southend, obviously.
Completely, and then went to university down in the south of Portsmouth, and then moved to London. So I've lived in many places in the UK and overseas as well.
What did you do at uni?
Languages and international trade.
Oh, fantastic.
So, well, predominantly Spanish. I would say I went to university with the hope to do German as well, but I think the teachers kind of persuaded me to give that one up.
Are you interestingly? Are you disappointed about that now, and you wish you'd done that, or are you happy with that?
I'm happy with that. I'm fluent in Spanish, and so Spanish was always the language that I enjoyed, and so I'm a true believer if things happen for a reason as well. So never any regrets.
Oh, that was going to be my question actually. What language? If you've done international languages. You clearly speak Spanish, you've just said, obviously English,
yeah.
We've got that. Is there any others that you dabble in or you can speak fluently in?
No, it's just English and Spanish. I mean, I like to think that I can speak a few other languages, but really the truth is, no, I can't. I mean, basic German, basic French, Portuguese, but the truth is there's no. I'll stick to English and Spanish, I think.
If you went on holiday, you've got enough to sort of get by on.
Oh, yeah.
But not, I'm with you. Okay, all right, fantastic, brilliant. So you did that at university. What was the highlight from university, other than getting a degree, obviously?
Highlight of university was actually that I took a year out. So I had a sandwich course, which is a 4-year course. So I had the 2 years in Portsmouth. Then I lived overseas. So I lived in Seville for a year in Spain and then went to university there. So that was kind of the start of my, travel experience. It kind of gave me the itchy feet, of wanting to sort of move around. So that was kind of like an experience in itself of, being completely living abroad and everything. And then, so that's definitely a big highlight for me.
Nice. And what's Seville like? Because I've done lots of Spain, but I've not done that part.
Seville is beautiful. You should go. I haven't been for years. I'd love to go back out there. It's just, it's all Andalusia. So it's just the buildings. It's just the very sort of what I would say the typical Spanish, with the flamenco and everything. It's like, I'm sure it's changed a lot since then. It's been a long time without sharing my age.
So what was your plan after university before you went and got a job? What was your sort of, in your mind, you're thinking, once I've done this, I'm going to go and do.
It's a great question because actually I had no idea. I actually went and I got a TEFL and started to teach English out in Barcelona. And after about 3 months, I realized that was a bad idea and I had no patience to be a teacher. So I basically quit, came back to the UK and couldn't really figure out what I wanted to do. And I ended up going into buying. So my first job was like an assistant buyer for Wix, which is still going to this day. So working in the plumbing department. So
brilliant.
Yeah.
So, and was that, you said you then moved to London? Is that was that in London? Was that?
Yeah. So that's when I moved to London. And I lasted I was at Wix for about 18 months. I'm one of those, I was hungry to move forward doing the job. I was sort of in a company, which was great as a first job, but I wanted to be sort of in a company that was moving quickly, and it didn't matter about your age as an experience as to how quick you could kind of climb the ladder, as it were. And so I was there for about 18 months.
I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because every business sees some of those things in slightly different ways, don't they? About how progression, what it looks like for individuals. So when you left there, where did you go after that?
I went to Amazon. This is 2004. And when I left and went to Amazon, everyone thought I was crazy. They're like, okay, so you're leaving this good job with career prospects, everything at Wix, and you're going to Amazon. What's that all about? Nobody could understand it. And at that time, I was going into the home and garden category, which had just launched. So everyone was like, well, you only go to Amazon for books and CDs and DVDs at the time. And it was one of those where, everyone thought I was crazy, which is funny now, given, sort of the industry that we work in.
So with that then, so what was, obviously you saw an advert or, something along those lines. What made you think, well, that looks interesting. That looks, as you say, they were just doing one piece to a degree. It wasn't mainstream really at all at that point. So what made you think, well, this is the route to go?
Do you know what? I hadn't really thought too much about the company until I went there for an interview. And we're talking about not these plush London offices that Amazon now has. We're talking about Slough, really sort of frugal offices. And there was this culture that just grasped me. It was very different to how I imagined the corporate world. People sort of walking around, dyed hair, tattoos, piercing, flip-flops. It was kind of just this real sort of chilled. And I turned up in a suit, which to this day, my friends find hilarious because that's probably the one time I've ever worn a suit. Because that's what I thought. I thought we were in this world. It was corporate. You had to dress corporately. And then realizing it didn't have to be like that. It was more about what you could achieve, just changed it. And so I came out of that interview sort of realizing, because, I was only young. I didn't really know how that sort of the working world was. And then, I was like, I need to, this is the way forward.
Fantastic. And how long you was at Amazon for?
I was at Amazon for over 7 years.
Nice. Okay. So 4 to 11, give or take. Hold on, hold on. I'm just doing maths. That was a bit crazy.
That was good. You did right.
It's been a long week. Hold on, it's only Tuesday. So in that period, did you move around different roles over that period?
Completely. I climbed up. So I went on, started as assistant buyer and then moved up to a buyer. And as I said, sort of, I'm quite, I've always been quite ambitious, impatient, hungry to climb that ladder. And so, you know, sort of went through all the various levels, I guess, that you would do in terms of buying, or what they call vendor management at the time. So assistant vendor manager, you know, vendor manager, senior vendor manager, and then sort of heading up the team of vendor managers. Funnily, I actually took a stopgap. Well, not a stopgap. I actually left Amazon after 3 years. I got a bit like, again, the typical, well, what else is out there? Grass is always greener. I went to Tesco. This was when Tesco was setting up their online. So this would have been about 2006, 2007.
Yes.
I lasted at Tesco 6 months and returned back to Amazon. So yeah,
I've actually heard a few people actually talk about Tesco's, because Tesco's were actually they were actually going out headhunting for people at that time, looking for people to head up. That I've spoken to a couple of people that have did something similar. You know, I want to work to Tesco's to head up this piece and do this because of their e-commerce piece. So that's interesting. Okay, so then you went back thinking, God, get me out of here and get me back there, basically, because the head office is in Cheshunt. I don't know if that's where you was, in Delamere Road. I don't know where.
Yeah, in not Waltham, something Gardens. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember the name. I've obviously
Welling Garden City.
That's it, Welling Garden City. Yeah.
I'm with you. Because I grew up around that area, not far from
okay.
So I grew up there, probably halfway between Welling Garden City and where you are now. So you then gone rushing back to Amazon, like, okay, the grass wasn't greener. Show me the life here. What did you go on to do there then next?
Interestingly, I remember going for an interview and I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement.
Yeah.
And I'd interviewed for a number of different product categories within vendor management. And there was one where I had to sign this NDA. And they said, we're going into something. Are you in or out? And I was kind of like, yep, I'm going to sign this NDA. Turns out that it was soft lines, which would have been watches, jewelry, apparel. It was even sports at that time, before sports was put into hard lines. And so I said, yeah, I'll do that. And so I was the first person within the whole of the Softlines team to just basically go out and find brands, you know, vendors, and just get them on board. And we launched, you know, many different product categories. So yeah, it was exciting, which is now it's like huge. So
yeah, that's where I was going to go next. Is that so? The role itself was going and essentially finding these brands and saying, hey, come on to Amazon.
Yeah, basically, and brands saying no at the time. You see, this is the interesting part from the days. Is the role's completely the opposite now.
Yeah.
But in those days, everybody was like, well, Amazon doesn't do clothing, or Amazon doesn't do sports, so we're not going to sell to you because, you know, we sell to Argos and we sell to all these other people. We couldn't possibly be seen to be working with someone like Amazon. And it was like it was a buying role, but there was an element of selling there because you had to sell the opportunity, which most businesses weren't interested in at the time. Yeah.
It's still actually, you know, we talk to people now and they still sort of say, yeah, well, Amazon just seems a little bit too difficult, so we're just going to carry on doing this, and this. I mean, that's still there, but it's interesting how there becomes a tipping point. It's like any business. We were talking a little while ago, like partnerships for us. We used to have to go hunting for partnerships. Hey, will you be a part of us? We'd love to work with you. And then what happens is, as you get to a certain point, people then start coming to you. It's not that we stop doing that, but people start coming to you, and there's a tipping point, and it's exactly the same with Amazon, where at some point people went, oh, damn, yeah, we need to be on that bus. Hey, can we come in? Which is now why you can't get a vendor client as easy as what you could before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so what was your highlight in that last piece? Because you was there another 4 years or so. What was that sort of highlight there?
For me, it was just seeing the category grow. You know, you that first member of that department, and just seeing it expand to, like, I think it was about 50 people when I left, and just seeing that growth within those categories. And it was exciting. You know, I always worked in new categories. I'm kind of more of that sort of startup culture and vibe rather than that corporate part. And that was a learning lesson for me when I was younger. And so it was just, and the biggest part for me was being in a position that it didn't matter your experience, your age, or anything. If you've got a great idea, you've got a great idea. If you've got a rubbish idea, people will tell you. And it was kind of like you could just be pretty, it was pretty straightforward. It wasn't all this sort of facade of how you had to behave. It was just kind of, you could just be you, really.
Which is interesting, because if you look at historical companies in the UK, that's how they've been. It's all a little bit, we've got to be nice and careful around people. You know, we don't want to say something that might upset someone, even if we can try and deliver it in the best way possible to essentially make this better. We're here to make this better. And people don't see it like that always, do they? And I think that's interesting, where it's a different take on that. Okay, so you're coming to the end of Amazon, and this is the point you then went traveling, did you say?
Yeah, the idea was, I guess, to come back, either work for Amazon Spain or, you know, look at other options. And I was, you know, in conversations with Seattle. So I took some time out, and then I didn't make it back to the UK.
So you went to Costa Rica?
Yeah.
Did you spend the whole time there?
Yes. Well, I traveled all of South America and Central America, so the whole of Latin America.
Amazing. So the idea was to take, I guess, a year out and then come back. Was that sort of the? Is it a year or 6 months? I don't know what the.
I guess it was a year. I hadn't sort of thought about it, but bear with me. Oh, there we go.
That's it.
But then I basically stayed out 8 years instead.
Amazing. So while you were there, what did you do while you were there?
Well, ended up getting married, having a child, so all of that. And also ended up, I had a business, so I had a distribution business that I first started out. So we were selling, we had exclusive distribution rights for kind of US branded toys that we were selling in Costa Rica. Had that for a few years, but decided that the market wasn't the size. It's a very small country, but also there's an element of corruption. So I was like, steer away from that. But also I was getting a lot of contact from old vendors that I used to deal with, going, help, what's this Vendor Central? Help, you know. And I started to realize that there was opportunity there. And so I started to consult old vendors. And then I realized, you know, I think I was on Upwork. Oh, it wasn't Upwork in those days, but I just saw that there was opportunity. And so started to consult. And over the years, just it grew to, I guess, how things are now with Amazon. So never realized that there would be such opportunity in the industry.
Yeah, I mean, there's huge demand for knowledge and thirst of making things happen easy, isn't there? That ability to try and fast track, you know, the way to the front, if you like. People are just not necessarily desperate for that, but they want to just, people are happy to pay to speed things up. Certainly entrepreneurs who have been through the journey and know what they're doing are like, look, if I can pay you 500 quid to do that piece and it gets me there that bit quicker, take the money now. Like,
exactly.
Okay. So you obviously started e-commerce nurse then. While you were still in Costa Rica.
Yes.
Fantastic. I love that. So what was the decision then to then come back? Because obviously you got a nice gig in Costa Rica. You're like, well, this is quite nice.
There was personal and professional reasons. So the business originally started more in the US, partly being in Costa Rica, you know, going over and presenting at conferences like the Prosper Show. I mean, years ago that was I think the first time was 2015, and seeing this industry out there. So that really grew the business there. But then we started to get a lot more interest as the UK and Europe, which is always behind the US, started to realize that they needed to invest as well. Yeah. So there was an element where I wanted to come back after 8 years. You know, you do actually miss certain comforts, you know, family as well. I have a young daughter and all of that. So we ended up coming back. But also for my business, it started to grow, that it got very difficult managing that overseas in the end. It's all right if you want to just do your own thing, but we actually grew to an agency, and that started to be a lot more difficult to do on your timetable, basically.
And that's the really interesting point, isn't it? That you start off with this view of, well, I can do this all by myself and just crack on, and and all of a sudden you then realise, damn, I'm going to need some people here, and that free lifestyle. People who run businesses people don't run business like, well, when you run your own business, you can do what you like. What you don't realise is that's not really the case.
Exactly.
So you went through that. Did you always start as e-commerce nurse, or did it develop into that?
I guess, yeah. I mean, I was just doing consulting with sellers and vendors to start. Didn't really think about it until a point where I think I had to think, oh, actually, maybe I need a trading name. And then it just grew into a business. And it was never really, to be honest, it was not like when I talk to people and they start talking to me about all right, I'm going to leave my job. I've got to create this plan, everything. What was your plan? And I can't answer that because I didn't have a plan, in all honesty.
Other than make shit happen.
Yeah, it just basically happened. Yeah, basically. That's it. You know, you've kind of got that oomph in you that you just want to go out and you start seeing what's working, what isn't working, and you just roll with it. And then all of a sudden the time comes, which I've been through many a times, of when you do need to plan. But sometimes at the start, you know, people invest so much time in planning, but you could just the business goes a completely different direction and you've procrastinated and spent so much time planning on an area that doesn't end up happening. So
and again, that's really interesting, because people get so bogged down in the plan that actually they can't see the opportunities outside of the plan that are actually much better options than what they've currently got.
Exactly.
Okay. Brilliant. So let's talk about e-commerce nurse then. So today, what typically, who do you work? Obviously, we've worked out as e-commerce and Amazon. I think most people are going to get that. But what do you actually do, and how do you support those sellers, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so we work with sellers and vendors, or more so brands, and we work with them. We either manage their accounts for them on Amazon, so we're Amazon focused, and we're a team of a number of us. Spent a number of years working at Amazon. Also, not everyone's ex-Amazon. They've worked in the industry for a number of years and gained experience there. And we work with, so we do account management, and a big core piece of what we do is the marketing element. So all about optimizations, the design work with the A+ pages, and how to really sell the products on Amazon, as well as a consulting wing as well to the business.
That's brilliant. So give us an example of a client success story, so people listening can really get a depth of what that looks like.
Yeah, so we work with clients it's all different stages. So you can have a brand that's often new to Amazon, and that's about helping them launch on Amazon. But more importantly, what we find is that we're working with brands that are probably, I would say, more bricks and mortar, traditional. They've got to move and transform. They're digitally transforming internally, but it's slow. And so a lot of the work that we're doing is helping them strategize and figure out what to focus on Amazon, because a lot of the time Amazon's like selection, but there's no strategy behind it. So it's about helping them build and decide on what they want to focus on, what's really going to give them the biggest gain on Amazon, and really developing on their marketing side of things. So making sure that they've got the right products, all their products are being optimized from a content on the content side, working on their images, all of their A plus, to really create the right reflection of the brand, because you've got these brands that look awesome in bricks and mortar in the stores or supermarkets. You see them on Amazon, you're like, you know, what's going on? And it's about, you know, if you're a premium brand or you want to be seen as a premium brand, then you need to look premium online as well. So that's what we focus on. So yes, it's very much, it grows sales, it grows conversion, we're growing, increasing the traffic, but more importantly, there's an element of brand representation that is key for what we do as well.
I love that. So what do you find as, when you talk about that digital transformation in those businesses, you know, brick and mortar into, you know, what do you find is typically the biggest stumbling block or hurdle that people have got to come over in order to go, well, actually, we know this is an opportunity, we know we've got to make it happen? What's typically the sort of stumbling blocks, or why they haven't done that in the past, do you think?
I think change is quite difficult sometimes. The best is when we get hired to rewrite the content. You know, we've got an awesome copywriter. She's been doing this for years, spent years at Amazon copywriting. You rewrite the copy and then you take it for approval. You get it back and it's the same as it was. So it hasn't, you know, and saying, oh, well, we have it like this for this reason. You have to take them through the journey as to why you're rewriting the content, you know, and you have to sort of explain it. And I would say that's the biggest part of, there's a lot of education that needs to be done with clients. It's helping them understand the whys of why it's being done, alongside bureaucracy as well. That can often be, you know, be a bit of a challenge.
Quite right. Yeah, see that quite often. Okay, brilliant. So let's look forward slightly and think about, you know, we're in Q3. Q4 is around the corner. If people haven't planned Q4, it's probably too late. However, let's just talk about what we see as possibly some of the, you know, things that are coming up that people should be aware of over the next couple of quarters, that, you know, lean into Q4, perhaps even to next year. Some of the things that perhaps you're seeing, the changes that are happening, things that are really important to sellers that they should be taking note of now to make sure their expansion into Europe, UK and Europe, is you know, accelerating still.
Yeah, I think well, the biggest challenge completely at the moment is from an inventory perspective. Is brands, as you say, if you haven't planned now and you haven't planned your inventory now for Q4, then you're gonna have a tough time, because of course there's, you know, a number of businesses are experiencing delays, not only from, for example, with China, but also Brexit doesn't help as well. So that's another thing when it comes to that. Also, you know, every year it gets more and more competitive. It gets you know, you've got more and more sellers. Post-pandemic, there was a lot of businesses shifting over to Amazon and other digital platforms. And so there's a lot more competition. So when it comes to advertising and gaining all that, the landscape's different to what it was in 2020, especially 2020. But, you know, it's about evolving. And really the businesses that we see succeeding on Amazon are the ones that constantly evolve and know that they have to constantly change. Those businesses that have that very much a set it up and leave it strategy, well, you know, they're going to struggle because, you know, there's just constant change happening on Amazon.
Yeah, I think the inventory, you getting stuff from China, you know, our shipping department, you know, what people were paying for containers a year ago, 18 months ago, compared to what they pay now, is scandalous, quite honestly. You know, the shipping, you know, our shipping department and team are, you know, just constantly apologizing. Like, you just can't, you can't get enough containers. You know, I went and took a photo, actually. There's Port of Southampton is just down the road here. And I had to go down there to get something the other day. And, you know, a container ship had come in, and it's the biggest container ship I'd ever seen, full of containers. Like, you know, it was stacked higher than it's ever been. It's wider. You know, normally it just looks a little bit skeleton. 2 years ago, I've been like, they come in, by the time they get here, they're like a third, there's a third gone. No. these were rammed. I mean, like you've never seen anything like it. So I think getting stock in is going to be critical, and obviously with the inventory stock, how much stock you can send in is definitely an issue. People definitely need to be considering that. So I definitely see that. And that competitive part. Have you seen over the Brexit period? We've seen a period where, there's a lot of British sellers selling in Europe, European sellers selling in Britain. And because of Brexit, actually, it was a little bit less competitive in that area because people just threw their toys out of the pram and went, no, I'm in the UK. I can't selling in Europe anymore because Brexit's too difficult. And vice versa. Did you see a little bit of that?
Definitely. I think everybody was taking advantage of Amazon's European fulfillment network. And the funny thing on the vendor side is that people didn't like it, the European fulfillment network, many a business, because they were like, well, if I want to sell in other countries, that should be for us to decide. Now loads of businesses want Amazon to just figure it out because they don't want to get involved in the complexities of it all. And it's, so we did see that. And now we're seeing businesses starting to think, oh, actually, now maybe we do want to go into Europe. Maybe we do want to go back to the UK. But definitely what we're seeing, as you mentioned, like Amazon's getting tighter on inventory, is more that brands just need to have a backup solution as well. And it's this whole dependency on Amazon. What we're sort of seeing is more about diversifying and having more than one way to fulfill orders, and just basically not having all your eggs in one basket.
Definitely. I mean, so we've got a warehouse in both the UK and Netherlands.
And
that piece, since Brexit and with the inventory stock limits, people are like, and so we can only ship 40 days worth of stock into Amazon. I've got a container coming in that's got 3 months worth of stock in. Can you take it? Can you fulfill to the other? It just makes life easy. Like that whole backup. And this isn't us promoting our 3PL because there's hundreds of 3PLs out there. Obviously, we're amazing. But, the key thing actually is making sure that you've got that backup in UK and Europe because, otherwise you're going to get screwed come Q4. You're going to be trying to bring all this stock in and Amazon is not going to take it. And I think that's where the winner, we've seen the brands that are winning are the ones that can control their stock, and vendors specifically. Vendors have been relatively good at this in the past years because they've always had to have a 3PL locally to Amazon anyway because they never run out. So vendors are much better prepared right now, I feel, than sellers, because sellers were just chucking everything into FBA and letting Amazon do it, as well as vendors always had to have a 3PL. So there's definitely a sea of change in that area, I would say.
Completely. And you're completely right. And I've never thought of it like that. But I think everybody was so reliant on FBA, and it's, Amazon's just restricting all of what you can and can't send in, doesn't forecast potential uplift in any of that. And vendors have always been doing that. And we've actually seen where a lot of sellers are asking that question, as in, who can we work with that can support us in Europe, and businesses basically, as you have a warehouse in mainland Europe, typically often Netherlands or Germany, and the UK as well. Otherwise, you've got to have the two these days.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely makes it a bit more of a problem. So Carina, it's been amazing having you on. Thank you very much. It's been great to learn a little bit about your story, hear a bit more about what you guys do. If people want to work with you, they want to start on Amazon, or they've got a brand that's already on Amazon, they want to explode, they're obviously going to want to come and contact you. How do they do that? How do they get in touch with you? What's the best way of doing that?
Best way to get in touch with us is go to our website, ecommercenurse.com, and go to contact us, and just fill in your details, and someone within the team will reach out and discuss opportunities with you.
Fantastic. Look at that. That was really straightforward, really easy. Amazing to hear a bit about that. So this is the e-commerce Expander Secrets podcast. It's been amazing having Carina on from eCommerce Nurse, and we will be joining the next episode coming next week. But before that, we're here to successfully expand all e-commerce sellers into Europe. And Carina is a massive part of that as well, because you expanding sellers is what we want to do. And the more knowledge, expertise, and the more people you hear from, the more experience you can gain in getting those top tips on what to do. So, Carina, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Andy.
Have a great day, and
You
we
too.
look forward to hopefully working with you again in the future. So, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.